There is a huge difference between tactics and strategy. It can mean the difference between doing what's right in a 1% success and transforming your organization, transforming your customer experience, transforming your employee experience in your workplace, as well as being a profitable or non-profitable business. And that's what we're talking about in this episode. As you already know, we have this year have been talking about workforce and going beyond the tactics of workforce management and pushing into something that feels more transformative, something that is more transformative for the sake of making sure that we are creating an environment in our organizations that pushes us into strategy, that pushes us into a place where we're able to actually get the results, get the outcomes that we're looking for in our organizations. If you're new here, I am your show host, Juanita Coley, the CEO and founder of Solid Rock Consulting, affectionately known as the Contact Center Whisperer and the author of WFM Go Beyond. We are using the book all year to guide our conversations around WFM and going beyond. Now, as you already know, we've been talking about this all year long, but I think it's such an important conversation that we have because the workplace is changing dynamically. We have moved from a workplace where the majority of the workplace has been humans, right? Where it's been leadership, managing and building up humans so that we can build people. And when I say build people, I mean, we should be building people up and encouraging people and getting the best out of how we work together. We've kind of shifted from that being our sole focus to now the workplace is not 100% human. It is also AI, machines, robotics. It's a lot of different things. And so when we think about workforce management, we are not just thinking about humans anymore. We're thinking about AI, robotics, machine learning. We're thinking about this whole thing. And so the dynamics of the workplace has shifted such drastic way that we have to now think about how do we move from the tactics of workforce management, managing our workforce, to be more strategic and transformative. And so I cannot say enough about our guest on this episode this week, who is none other than the amazing Dave Singer. He's the Global Vice President of Go-to-Market Strategy over at Verint. And I couldn't think of a better guest to have with us this week to talk about moving from tactics over to something that is more transformative. So Dave, thank you so much for being our guest with us here today on WFM Tipsy Thursday. When you think about transformation, how would you define that?
Yeah, so, you stole all my good words in your intro, but the piece I'll hammer on here is it's really about that shift in mindset from tactical action to strategic thinking and change. So, we've all been doing WFM for a long time, and it's been getting better all the time. But, the tactical approach, you get better sort of 1%, 1%, 1%, right? You get a little bit more efficient, a little bit better, but you're fundamentally doing the same things. Transformation means really shifting not just your mindset, but how you operate into that strategic mode. So the focus is on how do you best serve your customers? How do you deliver the best employee experience for the most engaged employees? And that's going to drive that 10, 20, 50% improvement to the business, not the 1%. Well, if I get a 5% more accurate forecast, or like, that's great. It's important. It's critical. But the transformation to think about the goal of the contact center of delivering those customer experiences, transforming with that at the center is what it all means to me.
I think that's so great because it's so true. You used to hear that as a selling point when it came to workforce, right? It's like, hey, if I can get you 1% better on your adherence or 1% better, closer from a forecast perspective, doesn't that take care of what the solution costs, or isn't this worth it? And it's like, sure, absolutely, right? And again, no knock on folks that are doing that still, right? It's just
Mhm.
very much so a tactical part. And I think it's still important. I think it is still important because it's the fundamentals, right? We have to still do the
Mhm.
fundamentals. We
Absolutely.
have to forecast, we have to schedule, we have to measure adherence, we have to do these fundamentals, which are the tactics. But I think where we are at this point of time when we think about customer experience is we're trying to push into transformation, which is exactly what you said.
Mhm.
How do we move from the value being, oh, a 1% better from an adherence perspective to thinking
Right.
transformally about our strategy around, okay, how do we now manage this workforce differently? And how do we think about why we even have an adherence problem in the first place? Right. Like, I think that's a different conversation. And that's what separates good from exceptional.
Mhm.
Hey guys, listen. So, y'all know I'm a data nerd, and 88% of you guys that are watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. So, if you are finding value in this content, can I ask you to do me a favor? Could you subscribe to our channel? What this allows us to do is to continue to keep adding value, bringing insights and the latest in trends around customer experience, employee experience, business profitability, workforce management. Thank you so much for being here. You are truly valued. We appreciate if you would subscribe and follow us for more information. I was listening to a podcast recently. I think that Will Smith was on, and or it might have been Kevin Hart. One of them, right? They were on a podcast and they were saying they think people drastically underestimate the difference between going from here to being good, right? And the effort it takes to go from being good to great. It
Mhm.
is, here is very incremental. It's like you can go from being trash to good very incrementally by just doing the tactics. But to go from being good to great, that takes transformation.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. I started thinking when you said, to good to great. Like in engineering, you talk about your 10xer developers. All your developers are good. They're doing here, here, here. But your 10xers, each one does 10 times the work of a normal developer. And that transformation is what you need to really exceed, to succeed. And we've moved into this mode where it's not just, oh, if you want to be at the front of the wave, you could do this. You have to. It's no longer an option because the world has changed,
Mm-hmm.
right? You think about it used to be, a call center. Now it's a contact center because there's so many more channels. And the expectation is all these asynchronous channels like social messaging need to be supportive. Remember, we've talked about before, the conventional wisdom used to be you must complete a transaction on the channel the customer started on. Not if they don't want to.
Right.
Agile channel shifting is really important, and you can't do that with the old school ways of managing. More and more, you talked about bots, at the beginning. I'm sure we'll talk more about later because I'm from Verint. I got to talk about bots. It's part of my my MBOs for the year. But it changes the nature of the work, right? The customers expect the simple stuff to be done automatically, and the humans will. Again, I talk about this a lot. Why do you need humans when you have bots? Because humans are uniquely good at being present, connected, and empathetic,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not managing your workforce in a way that encourages and enables that ability for them to be present, connected, and empathetic, then you've got human robots and mechanical robots, and it doesn't help, right? So there's a transformation in the kind of channels coming in. There's a transformation in the expectations of the customers and how they're going to get serviced and where they're going to get serviced, and there's a transformation in how the agents have to think and work. I'm trying to coin a phrase, so tell me if we can make this one work, right? I think we're in the middle of a transformation from knowledge worker to empathy worker, right? Because the knowledge side is becoming easy. There's knowledge automation, there's knowledge bots, there's IVs, all these things that make it easy to bring someone on board and give them all the knowledge they need. But what we need are empathy workers, people who can connect with and support their customers with all this knowledge and automation resource behind them.
I like it. I gotta feel it.
Yep.
I'm working on it. But like, no, I think that that's so good. You hit on something that just keeps ringing. I can't really even let it go, right? When we think about tactics and transformation and that good to great, because customers automatically expect good. Good is just like, Of course I bought this product. I can call or I can email. Of course I expect service, right? Like, so that's what you were doing before to produce a good customer experience. That's just like, okay, like every developer is good, right? Like, what are you going to do that's going to be 10 times better, right, to push you into that exceptional vein and that caliber with the exceptional organizations that are doing
Yeah.
exceptional customer experience? And I think people underestimate exactly what that takes. They think because they get a new channel, right? Oh, we've added SMS or we've added this, like we're exceptional. Like, okay, you moved to great, you
Yeah, I
moved
think
to good, but you're not great. You know,
uh,
what do you think?
absolutely. No, absolutely. And it made me think of something. It's really a transformational mindset because transformation isn't one and done, it's continuous,
Mm,
right? Think about cars, right? Used to be, power windows was a premium feature. Now you wouldn't buy without it. Used to be, a CD player or Apple CarPlay was premium feature. Now it's a base expectation. And,
right.
you know, what was great today will be just okay tomorrow.
Right.
So you need to be in this transformation mindset where you're
Yes.
continuing to move forward. And I think one of the things that's really important about this, though, that we focus on a lot, is think about workforce management as a practice and a goal, not just an application. Right? It's easy to
Yes.
put in a piece of software called WFM, but there's a whole practice and mindset and philosophy around this. And I think
Yes.
one of the major transformational things right now is about employee engagement and employee flexibility. I think the word Uberization is probably overused, but it drove this expectation of flexibility, across the board and across the workspace. The transformational thinking on the WFM manager side is being able to give the employees this flexibility and you know give up the control by trusting the technology. If you think back, nobody used to request automated time off rules or overtime requests or shift swaps. But now you wouldn't buy a WFM product that didn't make that automatic, right? It's just, again, what used to be amazing is now just okay. So we need to get the next step of this great level of employee flexibility to work when, where, how they want. Trust the technology to make sure that it means your schedules and your service levels not just the same, they actually get better. Those advanced capabilities allow your agents to work in the way they need to support their work-life balance, which means they can be better empathy workers because they're not focused on doing something that's off to the side and they can't get home to greet their kids after school. That's just one dimension, right? Is give the employees the flexibility to do the right job, trust the technology to make sure the guardrails are in place and you're not going to blow your SLAs out of the water, and everything gets dramatically better.
So in thinking about that, what trends are you seeing right now? What are customers asking for? What are the trends that you're seeing when it comes to customers thinking with that transformative and that transformation
Mm-hmm.
mindset? Like, hey, if you want to be competitive here, these are the things that
Mm-hmm.
matter most to us right now.
It's all about the employee right now for me. One is they're giving their employees flexibility around scheduling and work-life balance, because again, we all know employee experience is the number one driver of customer experience. And when you give your employees this, you transform the experience your customers get.
Say it
Right.
again,
So
Dave.
that
Say it again. You got to rewind that part. Say it again
yeah.
for the people in the back.
EX, yeah, say it louder. EX drives CX. There's no other way to say it, right? Great engaged employees will drive great engaged customers. So everything to do to focus on that is important. And that means on the one side with the WFM application space, you want things like TimeFlex that gives them incredible flexibility to manage their work-life balance. It's not just WFM, it's about introducing better knowledge tools. Agents shouldn't be scrambling through policy and procedure manuals and 7 websites to get the answer for the customer. That's not good for them. It's not good for the customer. They shouldn't be, waiting for whisper coaching or asking a friend. Automating coaching in the moment so that agents onboard faster. They don't worry about the mechanics. They can worry about that empathetic engagement with the customer. So that's what I'm seeing. It's about supporting the agents' flexibility and supporting them doing their jobs with automation so that the customer becomes the center of everything going on. What's the most common lie told in the contact center? Oh, hold on, my computer's running slow today. No, it's not. You just can't find the answer because
You
you don't have the
can't
right
find the
tools.
answer. Just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. So I love that, right? So we touched on like two things, right, around the customer experience, and then from good to great, right? From that customer experience perspective, what's driving and some of the trends we're seeing around employee engagement and employee experience being the core of customer experience. Like without that employee experience strategy, then customer experience is just as a byproduct going to suffer. Not because people don't want to do good, it's because many times they just aren't enabled to do good. They don't have, like you said, the most common lie is, oh, my computer's running slow. No, you're searching on SharePoint for the answer, right? Like you're
Sorry,
looking for.
I hate to interrupt, but I'm going to call you, the same thing you did to me. Say it again, right? The agents want to do good, they're just not enabled to do good, and that's critical to understand what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think so. I'm throw a little wrench in there, right? I'm gonna throw a little wrench in there. As a business owner, as an executive, right, that is in organizations, yes, I want my customer experience to be great, right? I understand that I got to have great customer experience if I want more customers. Yes, of course, I got to take care of the people who are taking care of our customers, our employees, right? But how do I maintain profitability? Like, can I actually maintain, can I be profitable as well? Like the
Yeah.
trends that you're seeing there, and how is AI coming into that question for executives?
So it's a great question, right? How do I pay for all the good stuff, right? That's, finite money in the world. Two things I think about. One is when you shift the simpler interactions and more Q&A type interactions, simple requests, getting more complex as agentic AI becomes more prevalent and more powerful, you're going to reduce the number of calls that hit a contact center agent. So when you reduce your call volumes, you save money, right? So putting AI in place to reduce calls coming in by servicing your customers better on the front end gives you some budgetary leeway to do the other things. When you do the right thing for the employees, there are real hard dollar benefits. It's not just, oh, Dave feels better, so make Juanita feel better when he talks to her, right? But Circo, one of our customers for TimeFlex, when they rolled it out, over the first period of rollout, they saw and sustained a 25% reduction in agent churn.
That's
Right?
crazy.
So, right, isn't that insane?
That's
And if you
crazy.
think about the cost of hiring a new agent every time, and the impact on longer handle times because new agents aren't as good and they
Right.
don't give the best customer experience, but just look at avoiding the 25% of your rehire costs.
That people typically don't see.
Yeah.
They don't think about those things like, hey, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
have to hire more people which means they're going to take longer to get tenure. They're going to take longer for their
Right.
handle time to come down,
Yeah.
so forth and so on. So those are the costs.
Absolutely. And that's an example of transformational thinking. Current thinking is, how do I schedule around absenteeism and attrition? And how do I hire faster to bring them on board? The real question is, how do I prevent the attrition? That's a whole different mindset to that problem, right? And that's where this factors in. And the ancillary benefit to this is, first, the stories from agents who've used this are incredible. We hear quotes like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad I work for a company that has TimeFlex. It let me go back to school." Right? It's I work in software for a living. I don't change many lives, but hearing stories like that is pretty powerful. And then from a business perspective, we have BPO customers who use the fact that they have these capabilities to both recruit new agents, because agents want to work for a company that does this, so they get a better workforce. And as a BPO, they use that to recruit new customers, because the companies that want to hire them are going to go with an organization that has better agents and is delivering better service. So they're saving money on attrition, they're getting more business, and they're getting better quality agents. Now, if that's not hard dollar benefit to why you should do this outside the squishy CX EX position, I don't know how else to convince you it's the right thing.
You said something that I think is super key, and I've probably been saying this on and off for maybe 2 or 3 years in some form or another. But I want you to step down on this a little bit more. You said about organizations leveraging, especially like BPOs, leveraging the tools as a recruitment opportunity. Like I almost think about this like colleges, like saying, "Oh, I want to go to this college because of X, Y, and Z," or "I want to go to this school because of dot dot dot." Like
Right.
organizations are actually using the tools and what their workplace ecosystem is as a
Mm-hmm.
benefit. Like, hey, come work for us
Yeah.
because we offer work life balance or priority, right? Or we
Yeah.
offer flexible scheduling, or we offer these things. So you get the cream of the crop when it comes to your workforce, right? Because you now have this transformative way of doing scheduling or work or whatever it is that you're doing. And I think that is a benefit that organizations aren't really using as a transfer. They're not thinking from that perspective.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that back, because I think it's really really important, because it comes to not how do I deal with the problem I have, but how do I stop that problem from occurring? And by having these things in place, I mean, you know, we've been doing this for more than a year, right? And we've been around. There were I grew up and started working in Ontario, up in Canada, and there small towns in Ontario where call centers are the business, right? And agents will walk from company one to company two to company three every time there's a 10-cent increase in pay at a different company, because it's all the same job, it's all the same thing. And if I can make 10 cents more over here, I'm going to quit and move on. I'll come back when you give me 5 cents more over there, right? When you say the benefit to the job isn't just to the agent, hey, you're going to make 15 cents more here, but you're going to maybe you make the same money, but if you're here, you can adjust your schedule however you want. We're going to support you with all the tools you need to feel comfortable and supported and confident in what you're doing.
Yeah.
To come back to what you said, we're going to enable you to do the good you want to do and have the flexibility to do it in the way you need to do it. That's transformative to recruitment.
Yeah, it really is. Like it really truly is. And I believe that when we think about how the workplace, which is why I'm super excited about this tour that we're on, the CX Impact Tour, and how we're talking about how the dynamics of the workplace is shifting, because it is shifting as we start to see 20% of the population of a person's workforce being technology, 80 being human, right? It's like the dynamics of the workplace are shifting, and leadership is having to think about, okay, how do I manage this new hybrid style workplace? They have to start to think just like this, not how do I address the problem? How do I eradicate the problem from being a problem in the first place? right? Like, how do I think
Yep.
differently? What are you seeing as some of the underutilized strategies like that organizations are taking right now that you're like, man, if they would just do this, this would move them from good to great?
I'm gonna focus on now. I'll focus in on WFM, the product, as part of the practice for this, because otherwise we can go all over the place. I think there's two things. One is channel support. I see again across. Well, I, I made myself a liar more than WFM across recording and quality and performance and coaching and workforce management. There's often a great amount of focus and rigor put on the voice channel, but not as much on chat or email or social.
Mm-hmm.
So I think bringing consistent treatment to how the channels are managed, how employees are managed across the channels, is an underutilized capability that's going to really normalize experience for the customers and normalize experience for the agents. The second is all the capabilities to provide flexibility to agents. Right? Yeah, you know me. I'm a big fan of TimeFlex and that sort of unlimited autonomous change capability. But even before you get there, there are tremendous capabilities around automation rules for shift bids and swap requests and overtime requests and VTO requests and all this stuff. And there's a lot of automation that could make the employees and the managers' lives better. And I think there's still a cohort of companies and teams that just don't quite trust it yet, so they don't use it. And if they did, I think there'd be, again, you could start to get that elevation in experience and mindset with what you have today to be ready for that massive transformational jump to something like TimeFlex.
What would you say? So this is my last question because I know we're
Sure.
over. What would you say is your favorite success story right now when it comes to moving from tactical to transformation? You're like, man, they really moved the needle from good to great. What's your favorite success story right now?
Well, I'm going to come back to the ones I brought before, like Circo, the customer. They had a 25% reduction in attrition and absenteeism. So not only do you have less people attriting, but the ones who are there are showing on time more and more often.
Mm.
Right? That's that's massive. I mean, the budgetary implications of that are enormous. And then, my favorite one, I'm going to use the agent story again. The agent testimonials we get that, now I can greet now I can always be there when my daughter comes from school. Now I've been able to go back to school to get my degree because I have the flexibility to manage around my classes. Like the fact that we're giving employees these flexibilities, we're changing and improving people's lives. And while we're doing that, the companies they work for are actually saving money and doing better. I think that everywhere we've given that flexibility to the agents and their companies, they're all my favorite because it's, as I said, it's seldom that selling WFM changes lives, but I believe this does.
So so keep me honest, but I believe so I love to ask about case studies and customer stories because I think that that makes
Mm-hmm.
it in a time where everybody's talking about
Mm-hmm.
AI and technology and
Sure.
products, right? Um, I like to talk about like the business outcome. I like to talk about the core customer stories.
Absolutely.
And so, but if you keep me honest, I believe
Mm-hmm.
that those stories are, first of all, amazing. But is that the product TimeFlex? Is that what
Yes.
the customer was using to implement um, the 25% reduction?
Yes. That's the
Okay.
product TimeFlex. And I'll say, because you said business outcome, and I can't believe I haven't said business outcome yet today. It's supposed to be ingrained as much as bot. In fact, one of our AEs says bot should stand for business outcome today.
I like it. I like it. I like
That's
that.
good. That's good. That's a soundbite right there. I love
Yeah.
those. But if you go to Verint.com, we have multiple customer video testimonials because I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face, and I probably will. But if you go to our website, there are customers saying in their own words, "Here's the impact it had on our organization," and the fact that their customers are willing to say, on camera in public, how powerful this has been, I think is incredible.
Yeah, that speaks for itself. Like you don't have to brag when your customers do it for you. Like it's just a thing. Well, thank you so much for coming and stopping by and gracing our audience with your presence today on Tipsy Thursdays.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me as always, Juanita. It's been great.
Absolutely. Listen, like we've already said, you can be good or you can be great. The choice is really yours. And I believe the choice is actually the customers, and the customer is making it very clear that good just isn't good enough anymore, and it won't be for much longer. And so I think that it was such an amazing, some of those stories that Dave talked through about that 25%, reducing that 25% churn from an agent perspective. And then also increasing or reducing the absenteeism. So not only aren't people leaving, but they're actually showing up more. And I think that's what we have to tie product to. If we're going to talk about product, we have to talk about product in what customers are using it, how are they using it, so that we can actually realize value. I love that business outcome today. So I think that when we're thinking about moving from tactics to transformation, difference between the two, right, is moving from what you're doing today that is good, that may be good, to how do we go to what we need to be doing tomorrow that is great and exceptional. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to WFM Tipsy Thursdays. Make sure that you click the link to check out more about Verint and their plethora of bots and the business outcomes that they're driving today, also known as bots. All right, until next time, go be great and let's make impact. See you guys soon. Bye.